Less than 10 seconds.
Hey everyone, I'm Michael Unger, the program coordinator here at the HR MacMillan Space Center. And today we've got a special conversation that I'm going to have with Christopher Rampersad from UrtheCast. And if you've never heard of UrtheCast before, they're a local company in Vancouver that takes really pretty, beautiful images of Earth from space. And as you can see right behind me, I'm here in my hometown of Vancouver, and I picked this one. This one is one of my favorites because, as you can see over here, where my thumb is, that's where I work. Well, normally when we're not stuck inside, but right out here in the HR MacMillan Space Center. And Christopher, I think you've picked a favorite one as well from your hometown.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. This is Winnipeg. It's my hometown, so I love the prairies and the greenery, and you can see the Red River in the background. So it's one of my favorites.
Awesome. So obviously, UrtheCast does more than just take these beautiful pictures. So what do they do?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right, Michael. Well, we take beautiful pictures, but we design and operate satellites from space. And so it's similar to what you see in the background here or what you see on Google Earth. But we use those satellite images to solve real world problems, things like environmental monitoring, climate change, or looking into agricultural issues like droughts or pests. Right now, we're currently focused on a couple things. One is to develop the next generation synthetic aperture payload. What that means is basically we're developing radar for space. So just like how a bat transmits pulses or chirps and records the signal, our satellites can do that too, and allows us to see the world in a different way, different than our eyes. Our second initiative is Earth Daily. This is basically imaging the whole world every day at 5-meter resolution. That's about the size of 15 feet or so. So anything smaller than that you can't see. You can't see license plates or human individuals, but it's really tailored towards agriculture and finding solutions for crop prediction, crop health, and monitoring.
Oh, wow. Amazing. So could you take us through sort of like how these satellites work up in space for people that don't quite understand sort of like the dynamics of them?
Sure. So when you put a satellite into orbit, and I can show you just a video of that in a second,
Yeah.
what you'll see is a satellite basically goes around the pole. And this is very traditional for Earth observation satellites. Communication satellites have a different orbit, but this is what you'll see for Earth observing. And so as the satellite goes around, it's actually the Earth that rotates. And that's what allows us to see different places on the world. If the Earth didn't rotate, you'd actually only have one image over one location. But Earth's rotation helps us out a lot with satellites.
Yeah.
But once you get those satellites into orbit, it's very similar to your eyes. Your eyes see red, green, and blue, but our satellites can see different spectral bands or colors. So we can see red, green, and blue, but we can also see near infrared and other colors that allow us to determine things like crop health.
Amazing. So maybe get into that just a bit in terms of like the agriculture and how these images really do help, but maybe go into some of the specifics behind that.
Sure. So one of the things we do with agriculture is we look at something called the NDVI. It's the Normalized Difference Vegetation Index. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
But basically, it allows us to see what we take for granted. When you look at a plant, you see green leaves, and that tells us intuitively that they're healthy. In space, what we do is we take a look at the near infrared band, and we compare that to the red band. And what's really happening is leaves, they absorb light, like in the red spectrum, so they don't have much red in them when they're healthy. But likewise, they also reflect a lot of near infrared light. So if a plant is healthy, it'll have a really large, what we call NDVI signal, and we look for that. And if we see a good NDVI, it makes us happy. If it's not doing so well, if it's a low NDVI, then we know the plant's probably suffering or is at a low stage in its development.
Nice. And so really UrtheCast is not a company that works with CSA or that works for NASA. You're an independent company, and you talk about being part of the Earth observation industry, which is really fascinating to me because I don't know if many people know that there's a whole industry out there of companies like yourself that look back in the Earth. Maybe tell us a little bit about what the Earth observation industry does.
Sure. So actually, BC has quite a long history in Earth observation. MDA was one of the companies in BC who put the Canadarm up and put up the RadarSat constellation and satellites. And UrtheCast is taking that torch. We're also developing satellites and new technologies. How the CSA, or Canadian Space Agency, fits is they're an organization that helps innovate. and they helped UrtheCast and MJ develop really interesting innovations like our next generation synthetic aperture radar technology, as well as doing fancy cloud computing of satellite image data. So the CSA is a partner of us. While we don't work directly with them for our commercial solutions, they're a partner for developing cutting edge technology within Canada.
Awesome. Do you have any examples of some of these images that you might want to share with our audience about maybe some specifics of we can maybe actually have a look to see maybe some of this agricultural work that you do?
I can show you one image off of the International Space Station.
Sure.
Start. This was how UrtheCast got started. It was done about maybe, this is a 5-year-old image, and it was at the time the first ever color HD video from space. So what you can see here is Fukushima. You can see some waves crashing in the background. If you look closely, you can see some cars driving around. So at the time, there was only still images. So it's quite a breakthrough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and in terms of other, this is a picture of Winnipeg, like I showed before.
Yeah.
Again, that's a nice field that there's lots of prairies and agricultural fields in Manitoba.
Maybe get into sort of course, you're from Winnipeg, and maybe tell us a little bit about how your background and how you got into this industry, and why UrtheCast is an exciting company to work for, and maybe tell us about what makes you excited to look at Earth from space.
Yeah, so I came to BC to be part of the space industry. As I mentioned before, BC has a really strong space heritage. So my background is in aerospace engineering.
Yeah.
So that's what I studied in Winnipeg and Toronto. But I've always been fascinated by space and satellites and how they work. And so being part of UrtheCast was a real opportunity for me to be a part of a cutting edge startup company. Putting up new satellites and really breaking barriers and boundaries in new technologies for how we see the world, both in terms of optical spectrum, like digital cameras, but also in radar technology, which is absolutely a fascinating technology. So the reason I joined UrtheCast was just to be part of something really big and see the world from a broad vantage point.
Yeah. And for you personally, since before you started with the company, has your perspective of our planet changed now that you get to see it in a very unique way?
Yeah, great question, Michael. The first thing that I think people notice when they see satellite images is you're not quite sure what you're looking at a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You look at an image and you could almost think you're looking at the solar system, or you might even think you're looking at capillaries within the human body. And so the first thing that I started seeing when I looked at satellite imagery is that it's so diverse, right? Whether you're looking at sand dunes or forestry or agriculture or cities, everything looks so different, and there's so much beauty in all the different scenes. And so it's really broadened my eyes from what you see around you when you're on the ground or even in a plane. It's a far different vantage point when you look at satellite images.
Cool. Do you have a particular favorite photo from your time at working at UrtheCast?
I do. I have a lot of favorite photos, but one of my top favorites is Poyang Lake in China. It's the largest freshwater lake in China. As you can see, it's beautiful. Those different shades of blue are from sediments. I love the complexity of the scene. You can see the lakes going into the city. This is home to many migratory birds. It's just a beautiful, fascinating scene. So it's again, it's just I find it breathtaking.
And what are the different colors of the blues that we're seeing there? What is that really signifying there?
Yeah, so you're seeing into the water, and you're seeing different sediments. So depending on how fresh the water is, it'll give rise to different levels of blue. So you're basically seeing a bit of turbulence and sediments within the water, giving really interesting properties from space.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christopher, for taking time out of your day to speak with us. It is Earth Day. Hope you were celebrating Earth Day with you and your fellow teammates there at UrtheCast. But take care, Christopher. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Michael. Happy Earth Day.
Destination 10 seconds.